speaking of COVID impacts, Australia's tourism sector is, having a bit of a time at the moment, which is understandable. Things are not back to normal. There might be an impression that we've gone back to normal to an extent, running around doing our usual things because we don't have lockdowns, COVID restrictions in place on what we can and can't do like we've had for the past 2 years. But obviously, there's still some impediments on getting international travel happening across the board. Just as an example, like Japan and China, that's not a thing in terms of individual tourism. You can't just catch a plane and go to either one of those countries and be a tourist because it's a banned thing. Similarly, not that we're banning people coming in for tourism in Australia, but there's no I guess people aren't feeling motivated to do that traveling because of everything that's been going on, and also things like flights can be really expensive. They can also have issues. There's been hearing plenty of stories about things like lost luggage, cancelled flights that have been a lot more prevalent since the airline industry started to kick back into gear in the past 6 to 12 months, for instance. And don't even get me started on Qantas on this one. But that's kind of led to a situation where, in terms of international tourists coming to Australia, they're probably not feeling comfortable coming over just yet, and obviously the tourism industry is suffering from it. So things like I remember in that ABC article that I was reading through where one operator was only really seeing like 15% of usual activity in his business, and yes, he's getting some domestic input there, but the big money is the international tourists that come in and spend lots of money. So it's a tricky situation, I think, for everyone. I think it can only be mended with time, really, as the cogs of society come back online. We did go through a fairly significant disruption, 2 year disruption. So just expecting it to snap your fingers and it goes back to what it was in 2019, I think is unrealistic. But at the same time, people who are in industries where their livelihoods depend on this sort of stuff, it's hard. But at the same time, we're not in a normal situation. We're still not back to normal. What do you do? Kind of thing.
Well, I totally agree with you. I think what we're seeing, though, is the new normal. We just spoke about how COVID has changed habits. If you think about it, to 2019, you had continual marketing campaigns that have been going on for years, convincing people that traveling to a certain destination was on their bucket list and whatever else. So that fueled international travel, and to some extent, yes. I mean, traveling by air anywhere in the world was probably at peak efficiency at that point. Um, but the truth is, we all know actually that international travel is a hassle, even when things run smoothly. It might take you 6 hours before to get to and to be at the airport before you actually depart, depending on the airport where you're flying from and where you're flying to. And then you might be on a 12 and in some cases over 20-hour trip. So it is a big hassle. You've got to really, one, want to go, and two, you've really got to be sold on the idea that you'll put yourself through the experience of visiting an airport, which I can't believe anyone would say is pleasant. When you then couple in with that, the travel difficulties now and just the stories of disruption, the expense now, and the fact that for the last 2 years we've had campaigns telling us to holiday at home, I think that's really what's affecting the travel industry globally. I'd love to go overseas, but I have to say it used to always be at the top of my mind. At the moment, probably not.
Yeah, and I second that. I was a fairly frequent international traveler, pre-pandemic, but I can't, and I was grateful that, we were in the position to be able to, do that sort of stuff, across the board for so many people. It opened up the world for so many people, but at the same time, for me personally, I haven't done it for, effectively 3 years now, and it's okay. I'm not clamoring to go overseas anytime soon. So, that's just the nature of the beast as it is now, and things can change.